As you guys probably know, I'm a big fan of mythical creatures, dragons, griffins, krakens, but today we're not reacting to any stories. We'll be checking out mythical creatures that are actually real. The Yeti.
Abominable snowman.
Okay.
Just like in those old headlines. Imagine this, a creature nearly 8 feet tall, covered in thick white or gray fur. Description
sounds like Chewbacca.
Like a gorilla, but walks upright, just like a human. Its main
gorillas do that sometimes.
The Himalayas, especially around Nepal and Tibet. The first big mention of the Yeti in Western media came in 1921, when a British expedition to Everest found massive footprints, human-like, but way too large. Since
Couldn't it be
then,
polar bears?
Tourists, climbers, and even locals have reported sightings. One of the most famous cases happened in 1951, when mountaineer Eric Shipton photographed strange tracks on the Menlung Glacier. The photo went
Interesting.
well, as viral as photos could go back then. Scientists remain skeptical. Many believe the tracks were made by bears, and the stories are just a mix of fear, legend, and
Okay, that is definitely AI.
Here's the weird part. Dozens of sightings over decades, and the descriptions are eerily similar. Coincidence? Maybe.
I don't know, guys. I want you guys to comment down below throughout today's episode if you guys think these creatures are real or fake. Personally, I think that the abominable snowman, aka the Yeti, is probably big fake. I don't think that it's actually real. I think that people back in the day probably saw footprints of polar bears or other big creatures that are near the areas that they found them in. It seems like the abominable snowman is also primarily located in these snowy regions where there's just a lot of things moving around. There's a lot of like snow getting whipped back and forth. So I feel like maybe what people think is an abominable snowman footprint is probably just a polar bear, or maybe even like a person's footprint that maybe is just like bigger than usual, because a lot of times people in snowy areas wear like things with their boots, like tennis rackets or something, to help them walk a little bit better so that they don't sneak into the snow. So I feel like it's maybe something like that. And then over time, the snow washes away some of it so that it kind of changes a little bit. And then people think, oh my gosh, this must be the Yeti. This must be an abominable snowman footprint, when in reality, it's probably not.
Or maybe the Yeti is still out there, hiding in the snow, just not ready to be found.
Nah, it's just a dude dressed up as Chewbacca.
Number 6
Next.
on the list is Cerberus, a giant dog, but not your average one. This beast have
Wait, are we actually saying right now that something like this existed? I mean, I've seen animals that have 2 heads. You know, sometimes people can even have 2 heads. It's just something that happens sometimes. But 3 heads? I don't think I've ever seen a creature with 3 heads before.
3 massive heads, and according to ancient legends, its breath could burn everything in its path, and its bark sounded like thunder rolling across the sky.
That one has 2 heads.
Cerberus comes from ancient Greece.
Hello.
He was first mentioned as far back as the 8th century BC, described in poems by Homer and Hesiod. He was believed to guard the gates of the underworld, making sure no souls could escape the realm of Hades.
And I'm pretty sure the only way to get past him was to distract it with either a sacrifice or to bring it some like dog treat, aka like a big thing of meat, to make sure that this thing did not eat you for lunch.
Not just any watchdog. This was the personal 3-headed guard of the god of the dead. But Cerberus isn't just a relic of mythology. In 2003, in the Italian town of Legnano, several locals reported seeing a strange creature with multiple heads near the entrance of old catacombs.
What?
According to them, it moved in an unnatural way. Incredibly
I love
fast and
Hercules.
silent.
Great movie.
They still insist to this day that it was something real.
No.
Something not from this world. So,
okay, guys, I also do not think that this one is real. I think that it could happen that a dog could be born with not 1 head, but 2 heads. That to me makes sense scientifically. However, 3 heads seems completely unreasonable. Also, Cerberus is known as like this ginormous, bigger than life dog. So part of me kind of thinks that maybe these people, I don't know, were sipping the silly juice a little bit. Maybe they had a long night or a long day and their eyes were playing tricks on them. And maybe they saw like a shadow or something. Maybe they saw like a shadow of 3 dogs. And sometimes shadows, as you guys know, can be bigger or smaller depending on where the light source is coming from. So I feel like it could just be a situation like that, where a lot of people thought they saw something that was actually a shadow or just a figment of their imagination and their eyes were playing tricks on them. Do I think Cerberus is real? Probably not.
Could Cerberus actually exist? Most likely not. At least not in the terrifying form described in ancient texts. But nature is full of surprises. 2-headed animals do exist.
Exactly.
Genetic mutations and rare biological
Okay,
anomalies are
these
real.
are Photoshopped for sure.
It's not impossible that strange creatures are still hiding
Hold on,
somewhere.
I just gotta look it up real quick. Has there ever been a 3-headed dog? Is that a real thing? There are no known documented cases of a 3-headed dog existing in the world. According to Guinness Book of World Records, they would know. If there was a 3-headed dog, Guinness World Records would have made like 5 books about it. Okay, so there's no real thing. What do we have next?
Mythical creature. The Loch Ness Monster.
Real.
Have you ever heard the stories about the mysterious creature that allegedly lives in Loch Ness, a lake in Scotland?
Yeah, guys. Okay, so do I think that this thing still exists today? Probably not. But I do believe that the Loch Ness Monster may be just a plesiosaur, which is an ancient aquatic dinosaur from hundreds of millions of years ago. Now, I think, hear me out, guys, I feel like people in Scotland probably found some fossils. They probably found fossils of a plesiosaur, which looks exactly like the Loch Ness Monster. So I'm starting to think that people found these fossils that look like this ginormous water creature that is terrifying, and maybe some of them started to think, maybe this thing still exists. And this is a time when cameras were kind of just coming out. So people probably like took some photos and something happened with the photo where in the water, something looks a little bit fishy, and people probably knew about the plesiosaur from the fossils that they found, and then bada bing, bada boom, they think, oh my gosh, the Loch Ness Monster is still real. There's still a giant dinosaur-like creature in this lake. But I don't think it's still there to this day. I don't think that they're alive anymore because they all went extinct.
Over the years, people have reported strange sightings associated with this mysterious creature. It is often called Nessie.
Okay,
Popular name for the
what?
monster.
That cannot be real.
The first thing that stands out in descriptions is the creature's
Scooby-Doo!
size. According to numerous accounts, it could be up to 10 meters long.
Look at those little
Leathery
legs.
body and a long neck, resembling something between a dinosaur and a snake. Some have claimed it has a head resembling that of a snake or a crocodile, and there have even been reports of its fins. The first official mention of the Loch Ness Monster dates back to the year 565.
Oh, wait, that's a
Saint
while
Columba,
ago.
An Irish monk, allegedly encountered a giant creature in a river flowing into the lake.
Okay, that does kind of debunk my theory that the pictures were found with the weird editing or like the weird things that happen to old cameras, right? That they're not super HD like we're used to today. This dude was around during like biblical times. We're talking 500 AD. People didn't really have much back then. So I don't know. Maybe this guy was sipping silly juice. Maybe he saw a giant snake. Maybe it was like a big anaconda or something, even though they're in Brazil and not in Scotland. So I honestly don't have a great explanation. I feel like this dude maybe was just making stuff up. People make up stories all the time. Comment down below what you think, though, because ultimately, I want to know what you guys think. Are these things real or are they fake?
In 1933, a widely known event was associated with a photograph taken on Loch Ness. This photo, called the surgeon's photo, became one of the most discussed images in history.
3
Later,
feet?
the photo was acknowledged as a hoax, but interest in the creature did not fade.
Oh wait, it was like all
Numerous
set up.
Investigations carried out around the lake. The Loch Ness Monster remains an unsolved mystery. Does it really exist? This question can be answered differently by each of us. But one thing we know for sure, the fascination with this mysterious creature never fades, and Loch Ness continues to attract mystery lovers and adventurers.
I'll be honest, guys, I do not think it's real. If I had to bet my life savings of $12 on this, the Loch Ness Monster is not real. Now, will I be traveling to the lake Loch Ness anytime soon? Probably not. If this video gets like 100,000 likes, I'll do it for a video. However, if it doesn't, you're not going to catch me anywhere close to Loch Ness, just in case something is lurking in there. You never know.
The next creature, the griffin. The griffin is a mythical creature with the body of a lion and the head and wings of an eagle. It is one of the oldest mythical creatures, mentioned in various cultures and mythologies. The strength of the lion and the majesty of the eagle have merged into this incredible creature,
Epic.
making it a symbol of power and protection. In myths, it is often portrayed as a guardian or protector of treasures and important artifacts, as it embodies the qualities of both kings of animals. The griffin first appears in the myths and legends of ancient Egypt, and later becomes an important figure in Greek and Roman mythology. As early as the 3rd millennium BC, Egyptians used the image of the griffin in their reliefs and in sacred structures. In Greece and Rome, griffins became symbols of protection, guarding temples, tombs, and treasures.
The interesting thing, guys, is I don't think that griffins were actually real, but it is so strange to me that so many different ancient civilizations have some sort of depiction of the griffin. They just talked about multiple civilizations from Egypt to Greece to Rome having their own variation of the griffin. And it kind of also leads into like dragons and other mythological creatures that have been around for thousands and thousands of years. How do different civilizations come up with basically the same creature, right? It doesn't make sense to me, right? Because these creatures, I don't think that they were flying around thousands of years ago, but all of these different civilizations made up a griffin, right? It's not like the one civilization made it up and then told everybody else about it. Multiple civilizations kind of came up with it. So I don't know. I partially think that it could be fossils that ancient civilizations found. Maybe they found fossils of like pterodactyls or pterodons or other giant flying bird-like creatures from hundreds of millions of years ago. And since they're fossils, they don't really know exactly what it looked like. So you got to use your imagination a little bit. So some of these ancient fossil archaeologists probably found these fossils, put them together, and they were like, this thing probably looked like a giant bird lion. And it sounds really cool too. I want to live in a world where like griffins are actually real. So I don't know, it just amazes me that multiple different civilizations can come up with these mythological creatures without any knowledge of them before.
The griffin has appeared many times
Harry
in modern
Potter.
films and cartoons.
Potter.
For example, in Harry Potter,
Potter.
it was featured on the Hogwarts crest.
Peter Potter.
Scientific research does not support the existence of the griffin as a real animal.
Okay.
The myth lives on in our consciousness.
Fossils. Boom.
It is possible that ancient people created this image inspired by real animals, lions and eagles.
That would be pretty
Symbols
cool.
of strength and wisdom in their cultures.
Is that a griffin too? That's really epic.
The gremlin.
The
You
what?
think gremlins are just
Wait
silly
a
little
second.
monsters from the movies? They're not.
Guys, gremlins they were made up for movies, right? Or is there some sort of like ancient lore about gremlins that I just don't know about?
Not the only one. But the truth is, the legend of the gremlins started way before Hollywood got involved. These creatures first popped up in stories from World War II. Back
What?
then, British Royal Air Force pilots claimed they saw tiny troublemakers messing with their planes mid-flight.
Maybe
unscrewing
kids?
bolts,
What the-
breaking controls, and
Wait.
causing major system failures. They called them gremlins. Descriptions were pretty consistent.
I mean, gremlin is a great word to describe these creatures because they look like gremlins. They just look like little gremlins that'll just mess up all of your stuff.
Small bodies, green or gray skin, huge ears, big eyes. Some said they looked kind of like bugs, others more like weird animal-human hybrids. What's wild is that pilots from totally
Yoda.
different places told the same kinds of stories.
That's
One
so
of the
weird.
most famous tales comes from a pilot who said all his systems failed at once. He swore he saw a little creature run across the cockpit just before everything went wrong.
See, guys, that just goes into my theory about how, like, all of these different people by themselves come up with the same sort of hypothesis. You know, they talked about the griffin before, and this is about a gremlin from multiple pilots saying, hey, there was this little creature that was messing up my instruments. How do they all come up with the same thing?
No proof, of course. But the story spread fast, and gremlins became a big part of military folklore.
Gremlins holiday.
Gremlins are best known from movies and comic books. But the idea of some invisible force messing with your tech? That still hits close to home, especially when things break for no reason. So do gremlins really exist? No.
No.
They're just a way to explain the unexplainable. Or maybe there's still one tiny troublemaker hiding in every plane.
Huh? Wait, why would you leave me on a cliffhanger like that?
One of the most fascinating creatures in this video is El Grand Maha.
Oh!
This massive sea monster only started showing up online a few years ago.
Yeah, I didn't think that they would bring this up because this isn't technically like a super old creature. I know that gremlins only came up during like World War II and everything else in this video is pretty old, like from hundreds to thousands of years old, but this is relatively new. I mean, we've watched videos about El Grand Maha on this channel, and it seems like it only popped up maybe like 2-3 years ago max. So is he about to say that this thing's real?
But it's already the center of countless theories and internet legends. According to witness accounts and online art, El Grand Maha is a colossal creature, about 2,200 feet long. It has a huge mouth full of razor-sharp teeth and 6 small white eyes placed along the sides of its massive head.
It is
It
terrifying.
lives deep in the Arctic Ocean, hidden from humanity in the darkest depths.
That is just not the
First
Arctic
rumors
Ocean.
started when mysterious underwater sounds were recorded in the Arctic. Some claimed it was just ice breaking, but others were convinced
I thought that was for the
voice
bloop.
of something no one could explain. One of the most famous stories involves a deep-sea expedition
James Cameron.
that supposedly caught the shadow of a giant shape moving past the camera. Does El Grand Maha really exist? There's no scientific proof, but
Okay, guys, I've watched multiple videos about the bloop and El Grand Maha and if they could actually exist, and all science points to no. The biggest creature to ever exist on planet Earth is a blue whale, and a blue whale is about as big as a creature can physically get before you run into some serious problems. Once you're that big, you have to eat so much food so that you can survive and keep your body functioning, that anything bigger than a blue whale just isn't viable. You can't get enough food. You don't have enough space to like go around, even in the ocean. The ocean's massive. However, the thing that we're talking about is like 10 times the size of a blue whale. El Grand Maha is just too big to actually exist. At least that's what I really hope.
our fear of the unknown, of strange ocean sounds and shadows in the deep, makes this creature one of the most terrifying and believable mythical beings of the digital age.
If that thing was in the ocean, would you guys go in the ocean?
And the final
I would
creature,
not.
Nokken. This mysterious being comes from Scandinavian folklore. Nokken
I've never
is a
heard of
water
this.
spirit,
What the?
usually found in rivers, lakes, and other freshwater places. Most commonly, he appears as a handsome man playing the violin.
Oh, okay. So I haven't heard of this one particularly, but I have heard of sirens, which kind of sound pretty similar to this, where they lure you in by looking nice. They look like good people who are just singing songs, and they're just out in the water, and they're just luring you closer and closer until you eventually realize it's a trap. It's a trap, and it's too late to get away. So I have a feeling that's probably what this is.
His music's so beautiful and haunting that it lures people toward the water. But don't be fooled by the charm.
I
In other
won't.
legends, Nokken transforms into a terrifying beast or even a horse to trick humans and drag them beneath the surface.
I mean, a horse isn't
Some say
scary.
He looks like a transparent ghost with glowing eyes.
That's more
Others
scary.
describe him as a slimy, seaweed-covered monster.
Some people call me
The
that.
earliest written mentions of Nokken go back to medieval times, but the oral legends are much older. He's especially popular in the stories of Sweden, Norway, and Iceland.
Huh. I
People
wonder
believed
why.
They could protect themselves by throwing a knife or coin into the water. One of the most famous stories
There's probably so many coins and knives in the water in those countries.
tells of a girl who heard music by the lake. She followed the sound and saw a man playing the violin. She
Okay.
couldn't look away. She was never seen again.
Okay.
does not actually
Hello. Hi.
He's just a symbol of the danger hidden in still waters. Or maybe, somewhere up north, in the misty forests, someone's still playing that eerie tune.
Okay.
Whether it's the mythical animals of our time or the terrifying creatures from thousands of years ago, these beings were not just products of human imagination.
What,
They
what?
actually roamed this earth.
You're
Number
telling me
7,
that thing's
Fenrir.
real?
In Norse mythology, a giant
It's
wolf
real?
named Fenrir is very famous. You might recognize a fictional version of Fenrir from the movie Thor, Ragnarok.
Oh, yeah,
However,
it was
Fenrir isn't
giant.
the only giant wolf found in myths. In
Wait,
the
there's
real
more?
world, about
Real ones?
10,000 years ago during the Ice Age, massive wolves known as dire wolves
Whoa.
roamed the earth. These
Wait a second, guys. I'm pretty sure that scientists recently said that they brought back dire wolves, which means that these ginormous mythical wolves are now going to be roaming the earth once again. Luckily, they are in cages, and it is very, very secure. But if these things get loose, I'm pretty sure they are like twice the size of a normal wolf, which is kind of exciting, but also kind of terrifying.
Predators were 25% larger than modern wolves and far more powerful, making them formidable hunters.
Why does he look so friendly?
In taking down the megafauna of their time. However, as
That's
the
pretty
Ice Age
impressive.
came to an end, much of their prey disappeared, leading to their extinction. Meanwhile, their smaller cousins, gray wolves, managed to survive and continue to thrive today.
Wait, yeah, I actually am kind of curious about that. So now the fact that scientists have brought back dire wolves, they went extinct for a reason, because they lost all of their prey, they lost their environment, the climate is changing. So what does this mean for like a modern day dire wolf? Are they gonna die out again? Or do we have to like keep them in zoos and in containment centers so that they have access to food, like medical care, and stuff like that, so that they don't go extinct again? We don't think about these things.
Number 6, four-tusked elephants. In Hindu mythology,
Tusked?
four-tusked elephants are often mentioned, with the deity Airavata riding one as his mount. These mythical creatures also appear in the epic Ramayana. Surprisingly, creatures resembling these mythical elephants existed millions of years ago. Relatives of modern elephants, such as the Gomphotheres, roamed the earth about 2 to 3 million years ago. These ancient giants had 4 tusks, using their lower pair like shovels to feed on vegetation. During this time, early humans like Homo erectus were evolving. It's plausible that fossils of Gomphotheres, discovered by early humans, inspired the tales of four-tusked elephants in Hindu mythology.
So basically what they're saying is that the early versions of humans actually lived during the time of these four-tusked elephants. I am kind of curious though, why did they go extinct? Because in my tiny little peasant brain, it makes more sense to have more tusks than just like elephants nowadays that have 2 giant tusks that could be used for digging stuff or for like combat if they have to fight off a lion or something like that. But it would be better to have 4, right? Because you have like 2 for digging and then 2 tiny ones for like attacking or stabbing. So I wonder why modern day elephants don't have 4 tusks.
Mythology. Number 5. Mapinguari. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest,
Mapping
tribal
what?
legends tell of a creature known
What
as
the?
Mapinguari.
Okay, what the flip is that thing? It has like a cyclops eyeball on its forehead, and then its chest isn't a chest with like normal stuff. It doesn't have abs, it doesn't have nipples, it doesn't have anything else. It just has a ginormous mouth. It's basically like a mimic, like the chest that has a giant mouth instead of actually having stuff inside, except instead of that, it's a chest that has a mouth. It's crazy.
Descriptions of this being include a single eye, a mouth on its stomach, and a fierce role as the jungle's protector.
It's like a mutated cyclops.
Mapinguari is purely mythical. History points to a potential origin. During the Ice Age, the Amazon was home to giant ground sloths, massive creatures as large as elephants. Their unique features might have inspired the myth of Mapinguari. Unfortunately, like many Ice Age giants, giant ground sloths went extinct around 11,000 years ago due to climate change and human hunting.
I don't know if I 100% agree with that, because these things, I mean, even though they were big and hairy, they had 2 eyeballs like us, and they also did not have a mouth. They just had a bunch of chest hair, and they had hair all over their bodies. So where did somebody come up with the idea that underneath the hair was a ginormous flesh-eating mouth? That just, it doesn't compute in my brain. I don't get it.
Over time, tribal stories about these creatures may have transformed into the legend of Mapinguari.
Is that where Bigfoot came from?
Griffin. Throughout history, humans have revered lions as the rulers of the land and eagles as the kings of the sky.
Wait, is this guy trying to tell me that griffins were actually real?
Ancient people, upon discovering the fossils of ceratopsian dinosaurs, likely imagined a hybrid of these 2 majestic animals.
That kind of makes
The
sense.
mythical griffin. A real-world counterpart to this legendary creature existed in New Zealand just 700 years ago. Haast's eagles were the largest eagles ever known, capable of preying on moa, flightless birds weighing up to 250 kilograms.
That's
These apex
insane.
predators had no difficulty hunting moa, given their size and strength. However, when the Maori people arrived in New Zealand around 1300 AD, they hunted moa to extinction, which ultimately led to the extinction of Haast's eagles as well.
The crazy part is that it is believable that like old, very, 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 very old versions of human beings would find fossils, and then they didn't really know what they were from, because science isn't what it is today, and we weren't able to actually say for certain what this fossil was actually from. So a lot of people probably just speculated that some of the dinosaur fossils were like modern day creatures, but they didn't realize that they were actually finding dinosaurs from hundreds of millions of years ago. And I actually know for a fact that some of these old groups of humans used to find like T-Rex fossils or like other large carnivorous dinosaurs. And that's where the idea of dragons came from. They would see the skull that was giant and it had giant teeth and everything. And then they thought to themselves, maybe this was from like a giant reptile creature, but they couldn't find the rest of the fossils. So they thought like, maybe it was a big lizard that had wings. And then I'm pretty sure that's where dragons came from.
3. Kappa. If you've ever watched Doraemon, you might remember the Kappa, a creature from Japanese mythology. Kappa is
like a turtle.
As a turtle-like monster that drags humans into water and eats
Okay, that's
raw.
weird.
Interestingly,
whoa.
prehistoric creatures resembling the Kappa once existed. Archelon, the largest turtle species ever discovered, lived during the age of dinosaurs. These massive turtles could reach lengths of 15 feet.
What?
Beaks capable of
15 feet?
If Archelon were alive today, its appearance and behavior could easily inspire legends like that of the...
Guys, 50 feet is massive. 50 feet is like half the size of a 100-foot skyscraper. That is insane. That's bigger than like 2 school buses combined together. And that thing was floating around in the ocean.
Kappa. Number 2, the bloop. In 1997,
what?
A mysterious and powerful sound was detected in the Pacific Ocean.
We're saying the bloop was real? No, whales are real, but the bloop was not real.
The sound, nicknamed the Bloop, traveled over vast distances, sparking theories that it originated from a colossal sea creature. For a sound of such magnitude, the creature would have to be 100 times larger than a blue whale. This
it's not possible.
Gave rise to the mythical modern creature called the Bloop. However, scientists later revealed that the sound was caused by melting icebergs in the Antarctic Ocean.
I did hear that.
This explanation, the idea of an undiscovered giant creature isn't far-fetched. Prehistoric oceans hosted enormous species like
true.
A fish that opened its 40,000 tooth-filled mouth wide enough to resemble the mythical Bloop. Number 1, giant.
That is insane. Wait, no, I gotta go back and see that picture. So that is the closest possible animal on planet Earth that resembled the Bloop. Even though the Bloop, they say from the sound that it made that the size of the Bloop would have had to been 100 times bigger than a great giant big blue whale, which is the biggest creature to ever exist on planet Earth. So this creature, this fish with tons and tons of teeth, was like a tiny miniature version of the Bloop that maybe lived during the dinosaur period.
Resemble the mythical Bloop. Number 1, giant bovids. Bovids, including cattle, buffalo, and bison, hold a revered place in many cultures. Greek mythology features Minotaur monsters, while Native American and Hindu traditions honor these creatures as sacred. But did giant bovids exist in reality? Yes.
What?
During the Ice Age, a species called bison latifrons roamed North America. This was the largest and heaviest bovid ever known.
How big are we talking?
With horns so wide that a car could fit.
It's crazy to think that something like this actually existed, and it was as big as a car. It kind of reminds me of like a modern day moose. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a moose in person before, but they can get as big as like a little car, which is kind of crazy to think that some animals, especially animals that aren't carnivores, can be so massive and giant. Kind of like a rhinoceros as well. Like, even though this thing is extinct, there are still animals out there that are as big as this creature that are still roaming the earth, which is so cool to me. Next up, we have unicorns.
Unicorns in fairy tales. But where did that idea come from? Thousands of years ago, people in the Indus Valley drew a one-horned animal on small stone stamps.
Why? Why would they do that?
Just myths, but a real animal similar to them once existed. During the Ice Age, a massive beast called Elasmotherium.
What?
It looked like a rhino, had a horn as tall as a person.
Oh my
God! One of the largest animals humans ever hunted. But climate change and modern humans led to its extinction. So unicorns weren't just legends. We just hunted them to death.
We really did. Oh my goodness. That is crazy. That like there were all of these animals that used to exist not even that long ago. A lot of the animals on this list survived, like 10,000 years ago, and then either climate change or humans hunting them is the reason why they're no longer on planet Earth. And I guess that is true. I mean, even though it doesn't really look like a unicorn, it kind of looks like a very, very ginormous, scary, demonic version of a unicorn. I could see where the idea of the unicorn would come from, because I mean, this thing kind of just looks like a giant horse-like creature that has a massive horn. The horn was as big as people, which is crazy because even like elephant tusks sometimes aren't that big. These things were tinier than elephants, but had horns bigger.
Number 6, dwarves.
What?
Dwarves have been in
Dwarves?
myths for over 1,000 years. But what if they actually walked among us?
Are we talking
About
like
50,000
Neanderthals?
years ago, a small human species called
What?
Homo floresiensis
What?
lived on an island in Indonesia. They were
That's
much shorter
real?
than us. So tiny, people call them hobbits. Life was
Oh.
tough. They had to survive next to giant predators like Komodo dragons. But they weren't born small by accident. When bigger humans arrived 100,000 years ago, the island's isolation caused them to shrink over time. A survival trick called insular dwarfism. So
that does happen a lot of times with animals on islands, still to this day, where like a lot of animals that are trapped and isolated on islands will actually start to like dwarf themselves. They'll start to over generations get tinier and tinier and tinier, just because the food there isn't as abundant. There's not as much space to fill, so they kind of like shrink over time, which is insane because that's how evolution works. So I guess the same thing happened with this early version of humans.
dwarves weren't just characters from stories. We just never met them. Number 5, Yeti and Bigfoot.
Okay.
You've probably heard about a big hairy creature
Of
walking
course.
on 2 legs called the Yeti in the Himalayas.
Is this
and
the
Bigfoot
giant
in North
sloth?
America. In 1951, climbers near Mount Everest found massive footprints in the snow. People thought they belonged to the Yeti.
Guys, I'm kind of curious. Do you believe in the Yeti and the Bigfoot? Leave a comment down below if you do, and leave a like on today's video.
But in 2017, DNA tests showed the prints came from rare Himalayan bears. So
that
Yeti
makes
just
sense.
a bear or something else? In
It definitely is a
1967,
bear,
the video
right?
claimed to capture Bigfoot in the wild.
Okay,
Many
wait,
called it fake, but in 2022,
looks like a
when
gorilla.
experts re-examined the video in 4K, they noticed the suit didn't match anything made by humans.
Yeah,
And
that
here's
looks
where
weird.
Things get wild. 3.7 million years ago, a small creature called Australopithecus walked upright in Africa. They were only 4 feet tall and had small brains, but they
I'm pretty sure that's like one of the earliest versions of humans. Eventually, we evolved from this tiny 4-foot monkey-like creature into the humans that we are today.
walked like us and may have even eaten meat. Number 4, Loch Ness Monster.
Oh yeah! Okay, I know for a fact that the Loch Ness Monster is real, but it's based on really, really old dinosaurs that lived in the ocean hundreds of millions of years ago called Plesiosauruses.
Claimed for centuries to see a huge mysterious creature in Loch Ness with a long neck and a dinosaur-like body. But despite sonar scans and underwater cameras, no one has found solid proof. Therefore, most scientists think the monster is a mix of hoaxes and mistaken sightings. But millions of years ago, something very similar did exist, the Plesiosaurus. It wasn't a dinosaur, but it lived at the same time.
Guys, isn't it kind of crazy that like modern day humans have somehow come up with this idea of a Loch Ness Monster? And the crazy part is something like this actually existed, but it existed way before humans actually were ever roaming planet Earth. Like, it's just super weird to me, and I don't know if it's just like a weird coincidence, but the fact that we just magically came up with the idea of this like dinosaur called the Plesiosaurus and then called it the Loch Ness Monster is kind of insanely cool to me.
Flippers like paddles and a neck as long as a giraffe's, it ruled the oceans for 150 million years. Then, like the dinosaurs, it vanished in a mass extinction. Therefore,
Dang.
if Plesiosaurus went extinct so long ago,
The meteor got it.
How have people seen it in Loch Ness for over 1,500 years? The logical explanation is that someone found a plesiosaur fossil and mistook it for the Loch Ness Monster. Number 3,
I guess
giant
so, yeah.
serpents. Giant snakes show up in stories across the world, from Jormungandr in Roman tales to Vasuki in Hindu myths. But these monsters weren't all make-believe, because scientists found fossils of Titanoboa.
Yeah, guys, I don't know if you have heard of Titanoboa before, but this thing actually existed. And just check out this fossil again. Look at the size of that. The entire fossil is as big as like a 2-story building. Look how much space that's filling. In the background, you can see there's like an escalator that goes up 1 story, and that's not even close to the size of the Titanoboa. This thing was a ginormous serpent that would crawl around in jungles and eat probably everything.
Found fossils of Titanoboa, a snake as long as a city
That's
bus,
insane.
and Vasuki indicus, which was even longer, nearly 50
How?
feet.
How is that
Titanoboa
possible?
lived in South America's swamps and crushed prey with its body. Vasuki was found in India, which links it back to the ancient stories.
If that was real
Therefore,
today,
scientists named it after the legendary
I'm not going
serpent.
outside
So
again.
These weren't just giant snakes in myths. They were real hunters, bigger and scarier than all the animals alive today. Number 2, dragons. Dragons appear
Oh
in
yeah, we talked
legends
about them
everywhere.
earlier. here.
In Asia, they are often shown without wings and soaring through.
It would be really awkward if he doesn't mention the fact that humans found fossils of like a T-Rex and that's where dragons came from. And he just brings up a completely different fact, and then I get exposed for lying to you guys. But I'm pretty sure that I was right earlier, but we're about to find out.
Clouds to control the rain.
Please be right.
European dragons are winged and known for breathing fire. Some believe these tales began when people found huge bones and imagined dragons.
Okay,
Millions
there we
of
go.
Years ago, something just as amazing ruled the skies. Quetzalcoatlus.
Oh.
This flying reptile stood as tall as a giraffe and had wings wider than a school bus.
Yeah, this thing is similar to a pterodactyl, but bigger, scarier, and way less friendly.
It didn't flap like a bird, though. Instead, it launched itself into the air and soared like a glider. Some scientists think it also hunted on land, using its long beak to snap up baby dinosaurs.
That is
So what
crazy.
happened? The same asteroid that killed the dinosaurs wiped it out too. But its
Dang,
legacy
R.I.P.
lives on in hawks and eagles, just smaller and less terrifying.
Oh, wow.
Number 1, Cthulhu. Cthulhu
Okay,
is
what? Wait a second. We are saying the ginormous, world-ending monster Cthulhu was a real creature?
creepy sea monster from
Seriously?
a 1928 horror story, said to haunt dreams from the depths of the ocean. But long before that tale, real sea monsters ruled the deep. One was Tusoteuthis, a massive squid-like creature that reached 40 feet long. That's 2
Wow.
giraffes laid end to end. It had a
Oh
hard
my
shell
God,
inside,
what in the
which made it
Subnautica
stronger
is
and
that?
faster than modern squids. It hunted giant fish
What?
and even baby marine reptiles. But like many others, it
That's an
disappeared when
alien.
the asteroid hit 66 million years ago.
Dang,
Cthulhu
bro.
might be a
This
story,
asteroid
but
killed everything.
Tusoteuthis was real. And here's something to think about. We've explored only 5% of the ocean. So if monsters
True.
like that existed before, what else is hiding in the dark?